Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another Three Girls, One Monthly Catch Up. This is our regular series that we do where we just like to talk a little bit about the decks that we used, books we read, TV movies we watched, other fun things that we did over the past month. So, this is going to be our monthly catch up for the month of August. And I think the first topic that we always cover is decks that we worked with. And Julie's going first this time.
I wanted to mention, because I know I'll forget to mention in future monthly catch ups, but I do start off my month with a card of the month. And it's usually from like a major arcana deck. So I feel like I've mentioned that before. And then what I've been doing this year, and I think I did it part of last year too, is that I've been working with my cup of contemplation cards to pull like a prompt of the month. So last month, I pulled my monthly card from my handmade Last Unicorn Major Arcana, and I got the Fool. And then from the Cup of Contemplations, I got How Do I Let Go? So
Um,
these two to get not only like standing on their own, it's one thing, but
mhm.
then putting the two together,
Yeah.
I thought that was quite interesting.
Mhm.
It comes at a pertinent time and
Mhm.
definitely had a lot to journal about.
Mhm.
So just an FYI that's just something I do every month, whether I say so
Mhm.
or not. For the majority of the month, okay, well, so I worked a lot. Shocking. I worked a lot with Guiding Muse Tarot, but I'm not going to show it because I've shown it like how many times now. So,
Okay.
and at a
Well,
certain
then Heather and I both bought it and have shown it also. So yeah,
yeah,
like
at a certain
It's
point,
been seen a lot.
we've seen it a lot. So I think it was more toward like what second weekend. I'm just like, okay, Julie, put this away and start working with something else. And so then for the rest of the month, I worked with the storyboard tarot. And this was just a good time. I don't have all that much to say, but I loved looking at the images. So you can see that it's, different panels that make up the storyboard, hence the name. And I just, yeah, this was lovely. And for it being an international deck, this is, I think, originally in Chinese. The guidebook was, pretty decent in terms of translation and the way they structured it. It was very kind of compact. So they gave you a little bit in terms of description and like a question, I think, like question to think on, right? And then they had a list of different symbols and like of what you were seeing in these different panels and what they would potentially symbolize in meaning. And so I actually liked the format of the little guidebook. And, some of the images, I was just like, oh, that's interesting. That's not necessarily how I would have, imagined that interpretation of that card. And okay, so overall, I just had a nice time with this deck.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was good fun. And then I also worked with the Zodiac Tarot.
Mhm.
I think, and this one, this one was fine. Like, and again, the guidebook, pretty good guidebook. Very compact, succinct. It gives you just what you need in terms of like the references, the zodiac, the astrological references, and how it pertains to each card. It's very shiny, so it's like nice. Already, I don't know if the camera will pick up, but the edges are beginning to kind of fluff up, and
Mhm.
because it's this
Mhm.
cardstock where it's like chipping, I guess is the
Yeah.
word. Like
Mhm.
you can start seeing the white.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. You can't see it on the camera, but
no.
Yeah.
And it's just the nature of this cardstock and the fact that it's shiny. And so I wonder how well this will hold up
Mhm.
long term, because it's not like I've been rough with this deck or have used it all that much. It was like
Mhm.
what, a month, and that's already starting to look like. Anyway, but again, this is another. It's a nice deck. It's
Mhm.
nice. I don't know again if this is like a long term, forever tried and true deck, but I do think that if I want to ever launch myself back into astrology, because it's a never ending battle for me and one that I refuse to lose for whatever reason. I'm just so stubborn about it. I don't know why, but like, should I decide to hop back in? Like, I think this would be a very useful tool for that, honestly.
Mhm.
This
Mhm.
is the deck that I
Mhm.
would get out, and like
Mhm.
the deck and walk and things like that. So I do plan on keeping this around for a bit longer. So
Mhm.
that's pretty much it for August.
Okay, well, so I'm gonna kind of do the same thing because there's a deck that I've been using very consistently, but forgetting to talk about for the last few months, and that is the Art of Life Tarot, which is a deck that, like, because I started a new job, I'm like back down in my home office all the time. I keep this deck on my desk. I draw a card every day. That's just sort of like a little message for work. And this is just, this is a really great deck. It just has a famous work of art on it and a really well chosen quotation to sort of represent that card's meaning. And it's like, I find that this deck is just always super on point. It always gives me a good message for the day. I don't like think too hard about it or journal about it usually or anything like that, unless there's some specific thing about the day that I want to talk about in my journal. So it's not like it's very much just like a work specific practice, but it's just, I don't know. This is such a great deck. Like it just gives you a good thought for the day, and it's a great way to start your day. I will say that when I last talked about this deck, somebody gave me the idea of maybe like shuffling it once at the beginning of the month.
That was
And
me.
then that was you
In one of our lives. Yeah. I was
yes,
just asking if you did that.
yeah, and I tried it and it didn't work at all.
Oh, okay. All right, maybe it wasn't me.
Did not work one little bit. I have to shuffle it. It was so funny because I'd try that, and every day I would draw a card and be like, "What the fuck?" Like, this is okay. Like I get to the end of the day and be like, "No," and then I started shuffling and drawing every day, and immediately it was like bang, bang, like right on point, right on point. So just for future reference, I mean, that very well may work great for other people.
But it
For
didn't
me,
work.
apparently not. So, but yeah, this is just a great deck, and it's just a lovely, the works of art are all amazing, so it's a great deck.
Well, at least you gave it a try, at least you tried a
Yeah,
different.
I gave it a try,
Try
and
something different. It didn't work out.
yeah,
That's
within a week, I was like, this is not working. Like, this is not working at all. It was so funny. It was,
I need the daily Sarah tingle, and it's
yeah,
just
right.
yeah.
Oh, that sounds so gross. Anyway, but yeah, it was really weird how obviously that didn't work and how immediately it started working when I started shuffling every day. It was like it was weird how like clear it was. So I have no explanation for that, but that is just how it was. So and then so I had plans to work with a different deck for the course of the month, but then I ended up getting this one in because this is one that I've been kind of waiting to come out mass market, and it's the Mindscapes Tarot, which is one that was previously like a Kickstarter as a majors only deck, and then came out mass market. I think Hay House released it. Yeah. And so this is a deck, like it again, it's Mindscapes, kind of gives you the idea. It's a very Sarah deck. Like it's a very like landscape based deck. There's basically no people in it to the extent that there are suggestions of people. It's very much like you're the person, in the deck. So it's a little bit like Tarot of Oneness crossed with the Majestic Earth Tarot is like sort of how it feels. But which I enjoyed. I enjoyed that aspect of it, but also given that I'm like, is this going to be a forever deck? Do I need this deck? I don't know that I need it, but it is very beautiful and I enjoyed working with it. It's got a good little guidebook that very much explains in very good detail like what is going on in the card and how that relates to the card meaning, which I really appreciate because, with a deck like this, like there are definitely some cards that where it's like, okay, what are you trying, like there are certain suits where it's like, okay, the suit of swords is basically just like mountains and mountains and mountains and more mountains. And like, you kind of need somebody to explain, okay, the layout of these mountains represents this in this particular card. And so if you do read the guidebook, it really helps with that. But it's very beautiful. I've enjoyed it. The cardstock is very nice. It's like nice matte cardstock. And it's got some extra cards that I did leave in, although I haven't drawn any of them over the course of the month. But yeah, it's nice. It's a nice deck. So, am I going to hang on to it long term, or am I going to find that I always just reach for a different deck rather than this one? Maybe. We'll just have to see. But so that's pretty much it for me.
I don't really have anything to show in terms of tarot. I had a funny month this month in where I used a lot of decks, but only once. Like I wasn't really doing daily draws, but I was doing a lot of different readings and stuff, but every time I did a reading, I was pulling a different deck to read from. But one thing I did do this month was use a bit more oracle. So I used the Soulful Woman oracle, which I've not used in ages. And I like this deck. I like it's because you get a title and then you get like a message straight on the deck as well, and then you obviously get a lot more in the card itself. And I like the imagery. And I needed something, I don't know, I don't know how to describe what I needed. I needed something that was a little bit less harsh than tarot. I think sometimes oracle just feels a bit softer sometimes. And one thing I did find with this deck that came up repeatedly throughout the month was the Embracing Change card, which is, I mean, it's nice. It says, with every loss, I understand that something new is about to be birthed beyond what I can imagine. And I was like, oh, the first time I got it, I was like, oh, that's kind of what I needed to hear right now. And then the next time I got it, I was like, okay, that's yes, great. I got it. I think I get it. And then the third, fourth, and fifth time I got it, I was like, what the hell?
Just like smack me around the head, like.
At least you haven't paid attention. Like, yes, I know, I'm trying. But I'm also a control freak and it's hard for me. So I did seem to get like really good stuff with this one, like really on the nose kind of stuff. And then the other one that I used, again, oracle wise, was the Morning Calm oracle, because this, I do love this one, and this one does feel like a little bit of a hug, the messages that it delivers. So I was pulling like 2 oracles, not every day because I just didn't have the brain space for that, but every now and again I would sit down and I would get both out and I would pull one from each. And reading them together also seemed to really work. The 2 decks seem to complement each other really well, but this one is just beautiful to look at, which helps. But in terms of tarot, like I said, I use loads. I use the like Heartswood Tarot and the Tarot of Oneness. I use the Tarot of the Muse. I use the Light Seers. I was just pulling out random decks all month, just depending on what mood I was in. So
our next category is usually books. So we'll hand it off to Julie to tell us about what she read.
I did read a romantasy called Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry.
Your face is not selling it.
I need to control this better because it's okay. Well, so I mean, plot wise, think like kingdoms with monsters, and you've got the unassuming princess who's like unexpectedly forced into this like blood oath, like ancient treaty by marrying the prince of a rival kingdom, super original. And then the prince has this bestie who's this arrogant warrior, and this warrior hates the princess and vice versa. They can't stand each other, or can they? So and I mean, I finished it. I mean, it was entertaining, and I think the writing style ultimately is just not for me. And I think I've been finding with several books, I feel like the editor could have had a better editor, because it's not like the author didn't have the potential to have a cleaner writing style, just in terms of a lot of hackneyed expressions, in terms of a lot of redundancy. I'm like, where's your fucking editor? Because like, if you just clean up this stuff, this wouldn't be so like taxing to read, Anyway, it was entertaining, not entertaining enough that I'd want to keep reading, because there is, I think, a sequel or 2 or 3 or who knows how many. And I believe they are in production for a like live action, like a series.
Oh, okay.
And I almost feel like this could be a better series than a book if they do it, if they produce it right with good screenwriting. And like, I feel like that would maybe be a better medium for it than what I read. Another book that I read was called The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. This is a thriller. And so this is about, so the character Alicia, she is a renowned painter. She has a husband whom she adores, who adores her. They have a lovely marriage. She has a lovely life until one night she shoots her husband times and murders him, and then just never speaks again. And she tries to end her own life, I think, a couple times, and she's eventually put into a psychiatric facility. And you have this criminal psychotherapist who has the opportunity to work with her. His name is Theo, and he is very invested. He is obsessed with trying to get down to like what actually happened with this, because this mystery has become quite sensationalized, and it's the public is kind of just very enthralled with like what went down. And she just has not spoken at all. And I almost DNF'd this because I did not care for Theo's character. Like, he has his own issues that potentially compromise his relationship with Alicia and the progress that they make together. And I just kind of felt like I had very little patience for him and his issues. But I'm glad that I kept on, because ultimately, I was fairly satisfied. Like, it wasn't an ending that I had anticipated. Like, I wasn't mad at the ending. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Oh, I hated that book.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I gave it 1 star. I think it was one of the worst books I've ever read. Okay. I thought the ending was so problematic. I mean, I thought the whole book was problematic. I think the way that it treated psychiatry was gross. And I just thought it was so badly written.
Okay, fair enough. Like, I almost, like I said, I almost DNF'd it because I did not. Well, I mean, I found Theo problematic. I don't know much about like psychology to, but I thought it was obviously entertaining enough for me to keep going. Like, I wanted to know what happened. Essentially, that was the driving force for me.
Yeah, that's why I read it to the end. I wanted to know what happened.
I wanted to know what happened, like what really happened. But for sure, yeah, I can see what you're saying about it being problematic in terms of how it is portraying the field of psychiatry and
patient care and all of that.
Now that I'm thinking more about it, I just didn't honestly think that deeply with it. I was literally just reading it. And so, but I can see that. I can totally see that.
But it's also very popular, and it won, like 1 year, the year it came out, it was like, I think it won the Goodreads Choice Awards for mystery thriller. So my opinion is not necessarily the most popular one.
And then the other book that I wrote was Lathe of Heaven by Ursula Le Guin.
Yeah.
So this one is about a man named George, and he has this ability to have his dreams become reality. And it takes place in a time where his reality is quite fraught with like war and strife and things that we like. That doesn't sound familiar at all. But anyway, so he starts receiving treatment from this like sleep psychiatrist named Dr. Haber. And Dr. Haber very quickly realizes that George is in fact telling the truth. He can alter reality via his dreams. So Dr. Haber starts manipulating that ability through his sessions with George to alter reality. And and Dr. Haber, it's not like he has good intentions. Like, he wants to stop the war. He wants to end these world problems. And as you can imagine, things don't go according to plan. And then also he becomes power hungry. He wants to gain this power for himself, to be able to wield this for himself. And so it's up to George to try to, stop this from happening, and to stop Dr. Haber from continuing to abuse him and to fuck up the world, essentially. And so I enjoyed that one too. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So
it's classic.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I'll end it there.
Well, so in August, I don't know, like you guys may have noticed this about me, but I tend to get on like kicks of a specific author and then like read a whole bunch of stuff by the same author.
Mhm.
And so like I did that with Grady Hendrix a little bit ago. And so August, I was on kind of a T. Kingfisher sort of kick. I've also been on a little bit of a T. Kingfisher kick recently. And so a couple of books that I read by her, one of them was Clockwork Boys, which is the first book in a duology. And it's sort of like it's a little bit sword and sorcery with like an edge of steampunk, where it's about this it takes place in this world where this kingdom is at war with this other kingdom who have these fearsome soldiers called Clockwork Boys, um, that you don't really get a sense of what they're like really in real life, but until a little bit later in the book. But it's basically there's like this it's a quest story where this sort of ragtag group of there's like a female forger who is the main character, and then there's this paladin who's possessed by a demon, and a scholar who like is like hates women and is like super super uptight and everything. And so it's this group of people who get together to go on this quest because there is this other scholar who has been studying like how they can defeat this other kingdom and the Clockwork Boys and all that kind of stuff, and they need to like find his research basically. And so they like go out adventuring across the land. And so it's only the first half of the story, obviously, because it's a duology, but I enjoyed it so much. Like I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's just it's found family. I enjoyed all the characters and like as how their dynamics change over time, and it's a good plot. It's fun. And so yeah, I had a great time with that book. I can't, like, I'm waiting for the second one to come in via the library, and it's taking forever, and it's like so annoying. um, but I'm still waiting for it. So that one was really fun. And then the other one I read by T. Kingfisher was just like another random book that I didn't even realize she had written, but it's called A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking.
Oh.
And it takes place in this world where there are lots of like wizards who have very very minor powers, like they all have some very specific minor power. And so the main character has power with baking. Like she can make dough do things, like bake a gingerbread man and make it dance, basically, those kinds of things. And then it becomes this whole like intrigue about like how maybe there are people in power who don't like the fact that there are wizards, and they are also at war with another kingdom. And like I don't know, there's like a whole plot going on, and there is a carnivorous sourdough starter named Bob. And like it like honestly also it was just a super fun read. Like I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like it was fun, like nothing too big deal, but just like a fun read. So I enjoyed that one as well. I really like T. Kingfisher. So, um, and then the third one that I wanted to talk about, probably everybody has already read, which is This Is How You Lose the Time War, which is basically a novella about two like two warring societies with completely different structures and completely different like philosophies, who are warring with each other like across time, and like they have these agents, like time agents, who are going and like trying to thwart each other throughout the history of the world, trying to fight each other. And the story is it's an epistolary novel, so it's basically about these two agents who start communicating with each other and then basically eventually fall in love, even though their two societies are at war. And the story is fantastic. Like it's a fantastic story. The writing, it's written by two different authors who basically like wrote to each other in character as these characters. And like I think I don't know who was who, but I feel like one of the authors had a little bit too much of a like purple prose kind of approach that I didn't enjoy reading as much as the other one, but it was still a really good book. Like it was a great read. So so those were mine for August.
So I had an okay reading month. Nothing really stood out very much, but I did read a couple of retellings. So I read The Horseman by Christina Henry, which is a retelling of Sleepy Hollow. And we follow a character called Ben, and Ben is the grandchild of Brom and Katrina Van Tassel from the original Sleepy Hollow story. And it starts with Ben and their friend playing in the woods, and then they stumble upon the body of a child, and the child has no head and no hands.
Ooh.
And it kind of goes from there. And Sleepy Hollow is one of those towns that just kind of accepts that supernatural stuff happens. And it's yeah, I mean, it kind of just goes from there, and you're basically the whole book, you're following the perspective of Ben. Christina Henry is I am discovering is one of those authors who, again, the premises of her book always interest me more than the execution of her books do. And I liked it well enough. The one thing, I mean, it is an adult novel, but it didn't feel like it. It did feel very YA, not just because you're following a teenager, but just in the way that it was written, and the style of writing felt very YA. But then also there were moments that were really graphic and gross because it is a horror. I'm not sure how I felt about the end, but I mean, it was fine. I'm glad I read it. I got it with a horror book box, so I'm not sure if I would have ever got to it otherwise, but I'm glad I read it. But Christina Henry is turning into one of those authors where every time I read one of their synopsis, I'm like, oh my God, I really want to read that. And then I read that, and I read it, and I'm like, huh. I was expecting it to be different.
Yeah.
But there we go. And then I read a book, which I'm going to try and tell you about, but it was very strange, called Off With Their Heads by Zoe Hannah Mikuta, I think is how you say the surname. And this was a Korean-inspired retelling of Alice in Wonderland. And so we have three characters. You have Isadora Alice Sickle, and what was the other one called? Carousel Rabbit. And then you have Hattie, who's the Red Queen. And Isadora and Carousel, when they're young, something happens to them that gets them where they end up with this thing called a death trace on them. And they have to go out to the woods of Wonderland and try and survive. And in order to remove this death trace, they have to bring back the head of 4 saints. And saints are basically magic users who have gone crazy over time and mutated over time from using their magic. And they're best friends, and they go out to the woods together. They're called Jabberwockies. Witches who have survived the Wonderland and brought back 4 heads are called Jabberwockies. And something happens to them in the woods that makes them fall out. And you're really following. The book has 2 timelines, so you're kind of following present day, where they're now adults, and also the past when they first go out into the woods. This book was very confusing. It was like a fever dream, but then Alice in Wonderland is a bit like a fever dream when you read it, and the plot is a little bit messy and all over the place. And I actually had a really good time. I'm not sure I could really tell you what it was about or what happened or how it ended, but I just know I walked away from it being like, I actually really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Really good time.
It's just
really
a vibe.
Yeah, it was just fun. And it is, I mean, again, this one is a YA. It was fun. One thing I will say is I audio read this book, and the narrator was incredible. It was one of the best narrators I have ever listened to, and that made such a huge difference. But I would recommend it if you are the kind of person who likes Alice in Wonderland and that kind of, there isn't really a plot as such, stuff just happens. It does have that kind of vibe, but I had a really good time with it. I just read a lot of stuff that was okay. I read Cults by Max Coulter. That was interesting. That was this is a podcast. It's actually a podcast where every podcast they talk about a different cult leader and the history of the cult and the cult leader. And this was literally just the podcast as a book. So again, I audio read it, so it was kind of like listening to the podcast, but each chapter is just a different cult leader and the history of that cult. It wasn't Like there wasn't a message or anything. It was literally just this is information about this cult and what happened to them, and then this is a different cult and what happened to them, the types of people that joined that cult and stuff. I really enjoyed it because I'm really interested in cults generally, psychology of cults and stuff, but it was more like history of than anything else. And then just a load of stuff that was just fine.
Back around to Julie to talk about TV and movies and other entertainment stuff.
Yeah, this one's going to be short because I don't feel like we watched all that much. I mean, Matt and I have been continuing with various like anime, but I guess the one notable thing, we did start Wednesday, season 2 of Wednesday on Netflix. So we did finish watching that first part that came out in August. So we did start that. And, at first I was like, do I continue? Because for me, the first episode was very lackluster, just for me personally. And I was like, and I had heard mixed reviews on this season where people were just like, this was not it. And like, this is just not it. And so I was like, ooh, do I continue? And I'm glad I did, because I found that I enjoyed the rest of it just fine, and enough that I wanted to continue when part 2 came out, or the rest of the episodes came out. And so I'm glad that I just, stuck with it, because it's a good time. And then the only other thing that I remember is that Matt and I rewatched the movie Pride and Prejudice. Like Matt wanted to watch Pride and Prejudice with Keira Knightley and Matthew McFadden, I think his name. Yeah. And he's watched this before and wanted to watch it again.
Wow.
Like, what is going on? Like,
dresses and fields. He was all into it. Yeah.
Now he's into it. And so I was like, all right. And this is actually the British version, because there are 2 endings. And I think the UK ending is different than the US ending. And so we keep seeing the British ending instead of the American ending, which of course I like the US ending better, but I haven't seen that one in a while. But anyway, so yeah, that was a good time. And there is a Pride and Prejudice remake coming out. It's a series. I think it's a Netflix series that'll be coming out. So I think I might be able to get Matt to watch that with me, since he does seem to be invested in Pride and Prejudice. So, but we'll see. So yeah, but that's really it.
So for me, it's August was still summer, so I watched a lot of shark shows. So that continued as usual. I did go to the theater once, which was as usual to see a BTS thing. So one of the members, Jin, had one of the shows of his tour aired in the theater, which was super, super fun. Like, had a great time. His tour was very much almost like a really great concert with variety show aspects and like games and stuff like that. And it was just really entertaining to watch. It was just, all of the shows were really fun. They were all different. And it was just a real joy to see that in the theater. And it was a nice full theater with lots of people having a great time and, yelling and singing along. And it was really, really a fun one. The only other thing that I watched that I, aside from shark shows, I randomly decided to watch the movie Return to Oz. Have you guys?
Such a long time.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. Okay. So when I was a kid, I saw that movie in the theater, right? I will never forget this. Because this movie came out when I think it came out in like 1987 or something like that. So I was like 9 years old, I think. 1986, something like that. I was not very old. And I remember I was in Minnesota for the summer, and my parents and the adults, like my aunts and uncles who they were hanging out with, they all wanted to go see a grown-up movie. And so they sent me and my sister and my cousin Mindy off to see Return to Oz by ourselves. And if you've seen that movie, it is, as a kid, it is so dark. It is nightmare fuel. It is so dark. And so my memories of that movie are of just being absolutely terrified the entire time.
I can imagine.
Not being able to sleep that night because I was so scared. And so that's all my childhood memories of that movie. As an adult, that movie is great. Like, I enjoyed it so much. Like, if you are like okay with the darkness of it, it's actually like really fun, creative, super creepy in its own way, but like it's a really fun movie to watch. And so I thoroughly enjoyed watching it again. But it's funny because like I've seen it a couple times since I was a kid, but like when I think back to having seen it as a kid, my memories of it are so strong and so distinct because I was so traumatized by that movie. I just was like, nobody was expecting it to be that dark. And our parents sent us off, 3 kids all by ourselves, to go watch it in the theater and just like, so anyway, but honestly, like it's a very, it has its problems obviously, but generally speaking, like it is a fun movie. It is creative, it is creepy, it is enjoyable. So I had a great time watching that movie again. So that's kind of it though. I didn't, shark shows. No.
I watched a few films actually in August. I did also watch part 1 of season 2 of Wednesday. I watched that as well. I enjoyed it enough that I watched all 4 episodes in one sitting. So but and again, it was the same. I was like, I enjoyed it enough, and I think it ended in such a way that really made me want to watch part 2. And the first episode was a bit, where are we going with this? What are we doing this time around? But I think it picked up from the second episode on, and it was fine. I had a good time. And then I watched a few films. So I watched Black Adam with Dwayne Johnson. Have either of you seen that one? Where he's like a anti-hero, superhero type character that is resurrected and stuff happens. I think it's a DC movie, Black Adam. Yes, it is, because Superman turns up at the end. It was fine. It was one of those films where I have like almost nothing to say about it because it was just a Dwayne Johnson movie. It was entertaining enough, but it didn't do anything exciting or special or memorable. And then I watched Renfield with Nicholas Hoult and Nicolas Cage, which is such a good film. It's so funny. Nicolas Cage, I love Nicolas Cage when he is playing those kind of roles where he just really leans into the crazy and just goes for it. And he's playing Dracula. And then Nicholas Hoult, who is an incredibly entertaining actor to watch, actually, is playing Renfield. And it's like modern day, and he goes along to this support group where he realizes that he's in a toxic relationship with Dracula. He's trying to get out of this toxic relationship with Dracula.
Like, oh my gosh, it's almost as though I'm within his thrall.
It's so funny. It's really well done. And I really love the way they like took old clips from like Boris Karloff, I think, Dracula, or whichever one it was, and like superimpose Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Hoult into these clips to like build up their story of their relationship and stuff. It was brilliant. I highly recommend it. I had such a good time. It was really funny. And I also watched The Thursday Murder Club on Netflix. So this is a book about 4 OAPs, as we would call them, old age pensioners, who live in a like retirement village, and somebody they have this club called the Thursday Murder Club where they investigate cold cases, because not one of the main 4, but one of the people who was in this home is an ex-police officer and has all these files that they're probably not supposed to have. And so they investigate all these cold cases, and then somebody is actually murdered, and they decide that they're going to investigate this real murder because that's way more fun than cold cases. The book is fantastic. The film could be taken one or two ways. If you watch the film as a film by itself and don't compare it to the book, it was good. It was a perfectly serviceable murder mystery in like that same kind of vibe of Knives Out and that kind of stuff. As a version of the book, it was really disappointing.
Oh, okay.
Actually, the ending was really disappointing. They made some decisions with what they included and what they cut and what they changed, which I think were a real shame. And I think that in order to really do the book justice, this should have been a series. And because the book is really clever and complicated and convoluted in a good way. And so much of that is cut out
Yeah.
in order to fit the runtime of a film. And then they did something at the end that just really made me mad. I was like, this did not happen in the book, and it's completely changed the characters of like motivations and everything, and made them behave in ways they would never have behaved in the book. And so the end did make me a bit mad.
So wild card, what else is going on?
Okay, so what did we do in August? The one thing, one event that we went to was the DC Fountain Pen Super Show. So apparently this
I
is
was
like
wondering if you went to the DC Pen Show.
sure did. Yeah, we because we had gone when we first moved to the area. Matt and I had gone just for shits and giggles, not being into fountain pens, not knowing what this was about, but it was just something to do. I had no idea that this was as big a thing as it is, and that this is, I believe, the biggest fountain pen show in the nation. And so, of course, just more recently getting into fountain pens and learning more, it's like, oh, I had no idea. And so I think we had gone last year, and Matt, not having been into fountain pens, got really into fountain pens. And then we decided to go again this year. And it is just so, it's so overwhelming. It is so packed. You never would think that so many people would be in to fountain pens.
Right.
But there are so many people, and it is so packed. And so, I mean, I just felt like, I mean, certain rooms you couldn't even move. I couldn't even see the displays. I'm just like, why am I here? I can't even see anything. But as it does thin out quickly, depending on which room you're in. And so, definitely Matt, of course, bought another pen, and I did buy some inks, some Robert Oster inks. And yeah, I tried to keep the purchases to a minimum, like not go too crazy. But there were certain shades of ink that I was looking for. And of course, like nobody really had it. Because they're popular, and that's fine. But yeah, it's just fun to like people watch and just see all the different inks and pens, and just the artistries, just talented artisans, and it's just like room after room and a few floors. It's bigger than you would imagine for a pen show. And then we went, there was a weekend where we took the day and went to a friend's river house. It's a fixer upper, and I think he bought it around pandemic time, and just recently, within like the last maybe over a year, he finally finished with the upgrades to it. And so we had a chance it was a lovely day because the weather was perfect. It was just hot enough that we could go into the river. It was part of the Shenandoah River right in his backyard. So that was beautiful. So we got to just float around in a tube, and it was nice weather. We had a fire pit. So that was very lovely. And that was towards like the end of the month. So that was a nice way to kind of cap out the month. So
okay, so August, the first thing is that my family that came to visit for the summer left at the beginning of August. So that was really sad, but also every time they leave, it's like, okay, now I can like get my life together again, because while they're here, I basically don't do anything except like hang out, and then my house gets dirty and I get super disorganized, and like, I'm doing stuff like every weekend that's not being around my house, and I'm never home in the evenings, and like everything sort of just like goes to shit around here, because I just let it, because I'm too busy focusing on my family. So they left, and I of course immediately decided to do some like house projects and stuff. And also it's fall, it starts feeling more fallish, so you start feeling like, oh, I want to clean and get organized and all that kind of stuff. And so I have been doing like pretty big house projects. Like I actually redid my entire like craft area down in my office. So like hung up some different, like installed all by myself with no help, using a level and a drill and everything, some new shelving on my wall, and changed around the way that everything is set up down there, and cleaned out my closets, took a ton of stuff to Goodwill. Like I hung up some new like wall organizers in my closet. I feel like I've been very productive. I was very productive for pretty much the entirety of August after my family left, and got a ton of stuff done every weekend. And it's been the same in September. I've just been like getting stuff done, which is awesome. Although you will notice that this room is still a complete disaster area, but that's next on the list. So yeah, we've got this shit to square away. So that's pretty much it for me. Nothing else very big going on in August. So
I didn't really do all that much in August, to be fair. I went to a sound bath. This is only the second time I've ever done it, but it's basically like a meditation session for an hour, but the person is like qualified, and they do to like with vibration. So they play like singing bowls and drums, they drum over you and stuff. And it's just a really lovely, relaxing hour where you just get to lie with your eyes closed for an hour and do nothing. I need more of that in my life. So I did go to that. That was a really interesting experience because I say it's only the second time ever that I've done it. I also started this, but I say started, I've only created a character, but this is like a solo role-playing game, another one of these journaling role-playing games, which came with its own deck of cards on the Kickstarter. I don't think it was Kickstarter, but so, and it's really cute inside. It's got loads of like little mice.
So it's called Bramble Trek? Is that what it's called? Okay. So it's
it's like little cute mice. So there's because I backed another one from these as well called Covens of Midnight. This Crossed Paths, and they're creating all these different solo RPG games, but they all take place in the same world.
Oh, okay.
Bramble Trek is like a woodland, and these mice live in this little woodland, and you just go on this little journey around the woodland, and you do a little bit of like caving and stuff. And it's so I didn't buy an external journal for this one. I'm just doing it on my iPad.
Yes, it's a journaling RPG.
Yeah. So I didn't want to have loads and loads of journals of different games because I'm in the process of trying loads of different RPG journaling games. But I created a character, which was fun, and you can either just pick what you want, like this list, and you can just pick what you want, or you can draw cards and the card determines. And I ended up doing it that way, like the more random way, just to see what I got. And now I'm about to go on my first little adventure. It seems to be a little bit easier to understand than Koroko. Like I'm at that point with Koroko where I'm ready to start with my first set of cards, and I'm having to find videos online just to see if I can understand what I'm actually supposed to be doing.
It's a little bit,
instructions are
they're not the greatest.
Really clear, and I'm a bit confused. Whereas this one's really simple. It's just like you draw 4 or 5 cards, and the cards each have a different thing that they map to. And you're like, okay, cool, I can do that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's good so far. It's good.
Cool.
I'm having fun with these. I'm discovering that solo journaling RPGs are my thing. I'm having a good time.
That's it for 3 Girls, 1 Monthly Catch Up for the month of August. So as always, it was really fun to catch up on what we've been up to. We haven't decided the date yet for our next 3 Girls, 1 Deck. So keep an eye on our channels. We will announce that when we have a date for it. Also, just as a reminder, we are also doing another 3 Girls, 1 Book. The book that we're reading is Confessions by Kanae Minato. And so if you want to join us on that, reading that book, we will also be announcing the date of the live stream that we'll be doing to talk about it as well. So keep an eye out for that. And aside from that, we will just catch you on another one of these for September in about a month. So see you then. And until then, have a great one, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bless you. You done? Sorry, I think he's done. He's sneezing. Anyway, yeah, so I
Okay, that's going in the blooper reel.